All right, good afternoon and welcome to today's workshop entitled Promoting Community, Quality, and Academic Integrity in Online College Courses. I am Katie Walsh and I want to welcome all of our virtual listeners as well as our two live students, Dawn and Sarah. Welcome to both of you. Before we begin, we want to turn off and tune in. So turning off means turning off all distractions, so your email, Facebook, your cell phone, close the door if you need to, whatever you can do to just focus on the topic at hand. And then tune in. So this is our quality check, our audio check. Hopefully everybody has already run their audio wizard, but if at any time during the recording you experience technical difficulties, feel free to go up to Tools and Audio and run the audio wizard. But let me just make sure that I have everybody and that everyone can hear me. So if you can see the recording button up in the right-hand corner of the screen, can you give me a green check? 2 green checks, awesome. And if you can hear me, can you give me a smiley face? Excellent. And also, if you can see me, can you give me a smiley face? 2 smiley faces, I'll take it. All right, and then lastly, if we can just free our minds of all distractions and really focus on the topic at hand. And our big question for today is, how do we create online college courses that promote community, quality, and academic integrity? And these might seem like somewhat disparate topics, but I hope that throughout the presentation you see sort of how they come together. Ultimately, what we're aiming to do here is create effective college courses. And one of the ways to do that, for example, is to promote community and to have quality assessments or evaluations. And then lastly, to maintain academic integrity. And one of the ways to do that is to promote community. So these things sort of all do work together to create effective online courses. So 2 learning objectives, both are related here. The first is to identify instructional practices that promote community, quality, and academic integrity. This is really the first part of our workshop, and then at the end I'll have you apply these instructional practices to a case study. But let's begin with an icebreaker, and I'm going to join you in this icebreaker. So if you all will go over to your whiteboard tools and select the big A, the text box, and choose a color of your choice. I'm going to go with blue, and I'm going to ask you to pick a pretty big font, like maybe size 72. And if you'll just go anywhere on this big screen and type your name. So, Katie, make sure if you can sort of try to leave room for everybody else to type their name. But if you can just type your name. I'll move mine over here, Sarah. Nice. John, excellent. All right. Now, this part gets a little tricky. If we'll take the stylist, which is always tricky to write with, you can keep your same color if you want. And think of, I guess we'll need to think of 2 words that describe ourselves, but we need to use the letters in the other people's names. So Dawn, I'll use yours as an example. So I'm a woman, so I'm going to write woman underneath using the W in your name. So Sarah, if you'll use words or letters, from Dawn's name and from my name to describe you, and then Dawn, likewise for my name and Sarah's name. And then after you're done, if you wouldn't mind grabbing the mic and telling us about the two words. So I'm Katie, and I am a woman, and I teach history.
All right. I am Sarah, and people told me that I'm pretty nice, and I couldn't really think of anything. So for Katie, under Katie's, I put cool with a K because I thought that was kind of awesome.
And cool. Nice.
And I put under Sarah that I can sometimes be sassy, and that under Katie that I have a type A personality.
Neat. That's a good one. Very creative. All right. Thank you all for participating in that. Let's jump into our topic for today. So the first sort of 3 parts here. The first part is on promoting community. And what a more sort of technical term for measuring community is transactional distance. And really what that refers to is the sort of connectedness that people, learners in an online class, either feel or don't feel. So this could be the distance between a professor and students or among students themselves. And when we're promoting community, we want to minimize transactional distance by maximizing interactions between learners. And by minimizing transactional distance, we maximize learning. So several ways that we can minimize transactional difference by increasing interactions. Lots of ways. So we could have, in an online course in particular, we could have a message board where students are able to dialogue with one another. An instructor could hold virtual office hours, so Google Hangouts, or sort of video conferencing like we're doing here, so professors are able to interact one-on-one with students. Video conferencing, which is what exactly we are doing, which even if you can't see each other, you can at least hear each other and interact in a synchronous environment. You could also, if you were an instructor, encourage students to come to your office hours and have them come and meet with you face-to-face. You could have students emailing each other, really any way that you can get them to engage. One of the ways that we're going to experience later on in this workshop is a breakout room where the students get to work together in small groups. You could also do student bios, have students introduce themselves. There are just lots of ways to really foster this initial social presence and minimize the transactional distance. And one key point about minimizing this transactional distance that Debbie Steinman makes in her article is the hierarchy that often is just naturally in place in a classroom, and for the instructor to try to disrupt that hierarchy. So for the instructor to treat the students as fellow participants in the class rather than a sort of superior. So let's think about the icebreaker that we just did. What ways did I try to foster community or promote community in our icebreaker? You can respond down in the text chat box. I tried to incorporate several of the elements that I mentioned, but how did I try to initially build community in our icebreaker? Introduced ourselves? Yeah, good. Student bios, exactly. Good, Don. Yeah, great. I showed you what to do, engaging. Thank you. Yeah, I'm trying all those things. Definitely. I also participated with you. I was trying to be a sort of fellow participant rather than just telling you what to do. I see that. Yeah, teacher presence, good, right? Yeah, those are so lots of different things. We use the whiteboard, which is something we are video conferencing. So hopefully, sort of right off the bat, we're building community, even in our 10 to 15-minute workshop that we have going on. So next, we want to look at promoting quality through assessment. So again, in the sort of umbrella of developing effective online courses, one of the ways to ensure quality is to develop effective assessments. And really, this point that was brought up in the reading is something that's applicable to face-to-face classrooms or online classrooms. But you want to make sure that the assessments in your course target specific learning outcomes and that you're able to measure students' progress towards that goal. And specifically within an online context, you want, and this is something that Garrison especially brings up, you want to allow for a collaborative, the nature or a collaborative nature component with e-learning. So this doesn't necessarily mean group grades. In fact, students usually hate group grading. But what it does mean is that you might have individual components of a group assignment. And so the students might receive individual grades, but ultimately be working towards the same learning goal, which will help to build that community that we mentioned in the previous part of our workshop. You want to make sure, be able to convey and measure student success. So several ways you might do that, to develop rubrics for your students so that students have a sense of where they are in terms of achieving the learning outcome that you've set for them. You could develop problem-based learning, which is something that we're going to get practice with here in just a second. But again, this emphasizes the sort of collaborative nature of e-learning. You could also measure student participation through text chat, through their engagement with the class, through the number of times they sort of log in. Although this is not probably the best measure. I mean, any sort of demonstrated engagement, if you can have the students submit reflection pieces, or like we're doing now, video conferencing one-on-one. So lots of different ways that you can develop effective assessments, but again, always sort of pointing to a specific and a measurable learning outcome. So again, let's go down to the text chat just to sort of see what you retained from that last little bit. If you could identify 2 components of assessments that promote quality in online college courses. And again, you can use the text chat. Excellent. Yes, rubrics for sure. Rubrics can be tough to formulate, but they are an excellent way of conveying to students. Good, yeah, small groups allowing for the collaborative nature of learning, fantastic, especially in an online setting. Definitely. Discussion forums, yeah. Making sure that you have an allowance, especially in an online setting, for the collaborative nature of learning. That's certainly something that web conferencing, yeah, that's certainly something that Garrison drives home in his work on evaluation and assessments. Again, really making sure to allow for the collaborative nature of learning and making sure that your assessments address the collaborative component of e-learning. So the last main part of our workshop for today is promoting academic integrity. And in the study, several of the studies we read, but especially this study about cheating and plagiarism, one of the sort of points that was driven home for students in online courses is that one of the reasons that they cheat in online classes, and this was the study by James Moten, is that they don't feel connected to the instructor. So it's sort of easier to cheat because that connection isn't there. So this gets back to our first point about really building a sense of community. Perhaps, there's a lot of great reasons to build community, but as a way of promoting academic integrity and deterring cheating and plagiarism. And so what I'd like to argue is that by increasing the teacher presence Don, you tend to disagree. Can you grab the mic and tell me what you mean?
Yes, I think that I really am not sure that teacher presence plays that much of a key in plagiarism. I think that a lot of times there's teacher presence. I think that there's a whole lot of other reasons. I think that I know that a lot of times students feel connected to their instructors, but they still tend to plagiarize. I just think that there's just a whole lot of elements of why that happens.
Sure, no, I completely agree. And the readings for this week point out lots of different reasons why the students would cheat or would plagiarize, for sure. Ultimately, though, for us as instructors, it's sort of up to us. I mean, that was sort of the focus of a lot of those readings, to figure out how we as instructors can deal with cheating, because it's going to happen in our courses. unfortunately. And so we have to sort of figure out ways to deter it if at all possible. But I completely agree. I mean, students can feel overwhelmed. I mean, the study suggests that it's to get ahead. Students they feel like they sort of need to get ahead. But you're absolutely right. Tons of reasons why students can cheat. But we as instructors, ways that we can deter it is to sort of, make our presence more known. And some of the ways that we do that in our classes or in our assessments in particular, and these were all ones that were brought up in the reading. So on your assessments online, you can have password protected. So that the students need to have a specific password to log in. You can have a review of policies, so maybe students before they take the exam have to have sort of honor pledge or honor code. Either they record their agreement to it or they acknowledge or initial before they're able to proceed. You could also use anti-plagiarism software to detect plagiarism. This is especially useful in sort of copy-paste situations where students are just copying and pasting. And to get back to the point about policies too, I mean, it's a good idea in your class to just go over these policies, to go over what plagiarism is. To get back to Dawn's point, I mean, sometimes students do plagiarize because they don't know, they don't recognize what plagiarism is. So certainly, talking about it in your class and promoting policies, promoting awareness of plagiarism are all ways to help promote academic integrity. Also, in terms of online courses, if you have strict time limits that students have to abide by, that can again help to deter cheating and plagiarism. All right, let's look at a case study to give you a chance. Actually, before we do that, we'll do a quick self-assessment. So which of the previously mentioned recommendations, so the ones that I just mentioned, do you think would be one of the more effective ways of deterring online cheating? And you can just, again, type it down in the text box. Good. Okay, so Sarah says having a teacher presence, yeah. And Dawn, password protection, yeah, for sure. I know in the history department we had a huge issue with online cheating, and it was lots of students who were paying another student up in Maine to take exams for them and quizzes online. And if each student had the password that they had to go in and sign in, that might have been one way to deter that cheating. But we were able to find out because we tracked the IP address. This wasn't in my class, this was one of my colleagues, but they tracked the IP addresses and they were all coming from the same computer, and it was this computer in Maine, and all the students were here in Dayton, Ohio. So it was something it was an eye-opener for sure. Had no idea that could even happen. What clued them in? I think that the instructor initially was sort of suspicious of the really high grades and kind of began investigating. And then, yeah, this whole sort of everything unraveled. And we've since been, warned to sort of check that out ourselves to see. But we have very large courses in history, 100 students and online, and we often do quizzes. So this was, yeah, I know, it was a shocker for me too. Yes, it is. Protector is needed, a password protection. I completely agree. So let's get into the breakout room, and we'll get into an actual case study. So I've developed, I'm from history, I'm in the history department, so I developed a case study regarding an online history course. No mass cheating with any students in Maine, though. But I want you to consider and apply the knowledge that you have now from promoting community quality and academic integrity to the following example. So I'll give you, actually I'm not going to read the example for you. I'll just tell you to go ahead to your case, to your rooms, and you should be able to, if you go up to the main room and click on room 1, Dawn and Sarah, since you're my only 2 live students, you should find the case study there in your room, and I'll give you 4 minutes to complete this case study. And if you can think of maybe 3 ways that the instructor could better promote community quality and academic integrity in his online course, that'd be great. And you can, if you want to type them, or if you just want to speak about them when you come back, either way is fine by me. All right, So if you will go ahead to your...
I can't move there, Katie. I'm trying.
Oh, okay.
It's probably the same thing I had to do.
You need to allow us to move.
I select that. All right, there you go.
Yeah, same thing happened to me the other day. Yesterday.
That's so bizarre. Can you go now? Oh,
yeah.
Okay. And for those of you virtual listeners that are still here, I'll read the example aloud for you and then maybe give you about 2 minutes to think about it on your own. So Professor Smith's online synchronous Western Civilization course consists of 3 one-hour lectures each week. Professor Smith asks the students to take notes during the lecture. Students complete their assignments individually offline and email their assignments to Dr. Smith. Dr. Smith conducts 3 multiple-choice exams during the semester. Students have an unlimited amount of time to complete these exams. So I'll give you about maybe a minute and a half. Why don't you just jot down, like I asked the previous group, maybe jot down 3 ways that the instructor, Professor Smith here, could do a better job of promoting quality, community, and academic integrity in his online course. All right, welcome back to our virtual listeners, and I think we should have the group joining, the other 2 joining us here in just a second. they should be heading back here any minute. So hopefully you've written down, virtual listeners, you've written down some examples of things that the instructor could do. And now we'll see what Dawn and Sarah have to say once they return.
Hey.
Welcome back, ladies.
Thank you.
All right, let's see what you've got. There's one of you, let's see, I can just read it here. No feeling of community. Yeah, right. More interactive, not just targeting lectures and quizzes, exams. Right, exactly. This is a synchronous course, and all he's doing is lecturing to his students. Yes, easy to cheat because there's unlimited time frame on the exam. Yeah, this is a good question. Is he creating a bank of questions? I don't know, right? So perhaps maybe if he was creating a bank of questions, one thing that the webinar talked about was creating a large bank of questions and randomizing all the questions so that the students are getting different ones. This is challenging, though, to make sure they're getting the same types of questions and creating fair assessments. But yeah, what kinds of what questions is he asking? A lack of social presence and teacher presence. Yeah, and perhaps cognitive presence. Right. There's lots that's missing from this course. So lots that he could improve, for sure. You all pointed that out very nicely. So, oh, I slipped one too many. So that was our case study. Just to sort of wrap up, the most effective online college courses promote community through interaction between learners, include quality assessment of student work, and deter academic dishonesty. Those are the sources, primarily just from this week. And are there any questions? If you're virtual listeners, you're welcome to email or stop by my office. But Sarah and Dawn, if you don't have any questions, thank you very much for joining me. And it looks like Sarah's typing. Thanks, great. Thanks so much. All right, see ya.